Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. History isn't just a list of dates and names, it's a living tapestry of courage, conflict, and choices that shape the world we live in today. And few moments stitch together that fabric more powerfully than the gathering of 56 delegates in a quiet Pennsylvania city in the spring of 1775. This is the story of the Second Continental Congress, a turning point, not just for 13 colonies, but for the very idea of self-governance. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's travel back to a time when America was still being imagined. In the crisp chill of early May 1775, the streets of Philadelphia hummed with tension. Just weeks earlier, on April 19th, the first shots of what would become the American Revolution had echoed across the fields of Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. Blood had been spilled. British soldiers and colonial militiamen were no longer neighbors, they were enemies. And now, representatives from 12 of the 13 American colonies Georgia would join later made their way to the Pennsylvania State House today, known as Independence Hall, to confront an uncertain future. This was the Second Continental Congress. It convened on May 10, 1775. Not as a revolutionary body at least not yet, but as a desperate attempt to find a peaceful resolution with Great Britain. Many of the delegates still considered themselves loyal subjects of King George III. They hoped to mend the growing rift, not sever it entirely. But the world had changed overnight, and so too would their mission. The atmosphere inside the State House was thick with anxiety and resolve. Men like John Adams of Massachusetts, his cousin Samuel Adams, Virginia's Patrick Henry, and New York's John Jay sat shoulder to shoulder with moderates like Pennsylvania's John Dickinson, who still clung to hopes of reconciliation. Among them also was a tall, quiet Virginian named George Washington, recently arrived, respected for his military experience during the French and Indian War, and already being eyed as a potential leader of colonial forces. Outside, the city buzzed with news of the battles up north. Militias were forming, supplies were being gathered, and in Cambridge, Massachusetts, thousands of colonial troops had surrounded Boston, where British General Thomas Gage held the city under martial law. The Congress faced a stark reality. War had already begun. Whether they liked it or not, they now had to manage it. One of their first major decisions came in June. On June 14, 1775, the Congress voted to create a unified colonial fighting force, the Continental Army, and the next day, they appointed George Washington as its commander-in-chief. It was a strategic choice. Washington was from Virginia, the largest and wealthiest colony, and his leadership would help bind the southern colonies to the northern cause. He accepted the role without pay, asking only that his expenses be covered. That gesture that spoke volumes about his character and commitment. But even as they prepared for war, many delegates still sought peace. In July, they drafted the Olive Branch Petition and earnest appeal to King George III, professing loyalty and begging him to intervene before the conflict spiraled beyond control. John Dickinson, ever the peacemaker, was its primary author. The petition was sent across the Atlantic with hope in its ink, but it would never receive the reply they prayed for. King George III refused to even read it. Instead, in August 1775, he issued a proclamation of rebellion, declaring the colonies in open revolt and authorizing harsh measures to suppress them. To the British Crown, there would be no compromise, only submission or punishment. That royal dismissal shattered any lingering illusions among the delegates. If peace was impossible, then independence might be the only path forward. Yet the Congress moved cautiously. For nearly another year, it functioned as a de facto national government, issuing currency, negotiating with foreign powers, managing military affairs, while still avoiding an outright declaration of independence. It was a delicate balancing act, holding together colonies with wildly different economies, cultures, and loyalties, all while fighting a war against the most powerful empire on earth. During this time, the Congress also began to assert its authority in ways that foreshadowed a new nation. It established a postal system, created committees to handle foreign relations, and even began drafting model treaties. Slowly, quietly, the machinery of sovereignty was being assembled. not in a palace or a parliament, but in a modest brick building in Philadelphia, by men who knew they were making history, even if they didn't yet know how it would end. Perhaps the most transformative voice during this period belonged not to a delegate, but to a recent immigrant. In January 1776, Thomas Paine published Common Sense a fiery pamphlet that swept through the colonies like wildfire. Written in plain language, it argued not just for resistance, but for complete independence from Britain. "The sun never shined on a cause of greater worth," Paine wrote. His words electrified public opinion and put immense pressure on the Congress to take a definitive stand. By the spring of 1776, the tide had turned. Colonial assemblies began instructing their delegates to support independence. On June 7th, Virginia S. Richard Henry Lee stood before the Congress and proposed a resolution that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. The motion sparked fierce debate, but it was clear the moment had come. The Congress appointed a committee of 5: Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston to draft a formal declaration. And on July 2, 1776, the Congress voted to approve Lee's resolution. 2 days later, they adopted the Declaration of Independence, a document that would echo through centuries. But let's not forget where it all began. In May 1775, with a group of anxious, determined men stepping into a room not to declare a nation, but to save one. They didn't know they'd be founding a country. They only knew they couldn't stand by while their rights were trampled. From managing militias to printing money, from sending petitions to appointing generals, the Second Continental Congress became the crucible in which American unity was forged not by design, but by necessity. And Philadelphia, that unassuming city on the Delaware River, became more than a meeting place. It became the birthplace of an idea that ordinary people could govern themselves, that liberty was worth fighting for, and that a collection of distant colonies could become something greater, a united people. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, if it sparked your curiosity or reminded you why history matters, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves a good tale from the past. Don T. Forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a story, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear which moment from the Second Continental Congress surprised you the most. Until next time, remember, every nation begins with a conversation, and sometimes just one brave decision in a quiet room can change the world. Take care and see you soon.